They have upgraded Stalker, but they haven't deviated from what we loved about the old games. So if you're a fan of the old games and none of the negative things I said scared you, you will love this game. Hello, I am Lilia, and I just played the brand new Stalker 2 for 5.5 hours today. I thought it would be useful if I made a very quick video going over the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that you know whether or not this game is going to be for you or not, or if you should maybe wait to purchase it, or if maybe it's not your jam after all. I'm coming from the stance of somebody who loved the older games, who appreciates older games in general, and so I'm comparing this a lot-ish to the older games, but I'm also putting it a bit higher up on a pedestal expectations-wise because it is a brand new game. It is expensive, and I want you guys to get your money's worth. So I think we should go over these things that you might not like and that you might love, and then you can weigh your scale wherever it goes. You decide if this game is for you or not. Because honestly, it really is going to depend on some things. So let's get into it. First of all, I have to shout out my partner in crime, Games Planet, who has provided a generous 20% discount for you guys for Stalker 2 if you do end up wanting to purchase the game. Find the link below in the description and the code Stalker Lilia. Use that at checkout and you will receive 20% off of Stalker 2, which is a lot. It's not a cheap game. Right. I think we'll start with the good because everyone wants to hear the good news first, right? The voice acting. Now, I have actually some good things to say about this and some medium things to say about this. Overall, I thought the voice acting was good, but I do actually think that the Ukrainian voice acting is better than the English. And even though I don't understand what they're saying, I still think that comparing to the older games, the Ukrainian voice acting just fits better because the old games, the English people had a Slavic accent, which still fit the theme of the game. But in Stalker 2, that's not the case. There's American accents, there's British accents, there's whatever accents, which you could argue could make sense. But when comparing it to the older games, I just felt like the English voice acting was sometimes out of place and felt a little strange. Now, if you didn't play the original games, you would not notice that in the slightest, and you probably wouldn't care. So this is one of those things like, do you want the English, but also Ukrainian-esque accent, or are you going to be disappointed that your main character is an American? So the way that I ended up playing in the end was with English subtitles and then this Ukrainian voice acting. You can flip-flop back and forth during gameplay and just kind of see what you like. And it's sort of fun actually to see like what one character sounds like in English and in Ukrainian, because they're completely different voice actors and sometimes their voices vary dramatically. And one of the voices that is so different is the American VA for the main character and the Ukrainian VA for the main character. They're both good, but the Ukrainian guy has a much lower voice, so it's kind of strange to switch back. The game, of course, as you can see, is absolutely gorgeous in every way in Unreal Engine 5. Now, there are some downsides to the gorgeousness, which I will talk about in the bad section of this video. But for the purposes of this discussion, the graphics are just stunning. Like there's so many times when I was walking around the zone and I just had to like stop and look and say, wow, that's really pretty. One of the areas that specifically that I'm thinking of is the poppy fields, just so beautiful. One of the things that the Stalker games have nailed, in my opinion, with the graphics has always been the sort of windy kind of atmosphere that I haven't seen in a lot of games. There's always leaves blowing in the wind and the anomalies happening, which is, you know, these graphical weird shapes in the air sometimes, but a lot of times there's particle effects swooshing around. It makes it feel like a real live environment because of that. And I really think more games should do more of that. I think it's just gorgeous. And they did this back in the mid 2000s as well with the old games. So I appreciate that. I don't know about you. I also think that the game's UI is very well put together, and it is sort of a upgraded version of the old game's UI in some ways. So if you played the old games, you'll be familiar with it, but you will notice that it's a lot easier to navigate. It makes more sense. And I just thought it was just better overall, pretty much. My favorite part of Stalker 2 is the gunplay. I think that they absolutely nailed it. The feeling of shooting the dudes with all these different guns, being able to lean around the corner, and just also the AI is pretty smart, so that's great. And they love to throw grenades at you. You're shooting a dude around the corner. All of a sudden he says, "I'm throwing a grenade." And then you're like, "Oh God." And you run away really quickly. There's no lag. Like as soon as you hit that button, you're going. And then you can quickly stop, lean, shoot again. It's just, it's hard to really explain what it feels like unless you play it, I guess. But it's really responsive, really fun, and challenging too. Another thing about the combat is the weapon attachment system, which I think is really smart. You can attach attachments to your guns mid-combat. You can quickly take your silencer off, put it on just with a press of a button during combat. As long as you have that gun out, you can put an attachment on it. This is different from the upgrades, and that'd probably be easy to get confused, but the upgrades are still in the game. You can pay to upgrade your weapons in various different ways, and then you also have the attachments that you can take on and off of each gun. So that's just a really cool system, and I thought it was a high point. I decided to play this game on veteran difficulty because I played the old Stalker games on master, which is that hardest difficulty of the old games. And I'm happy to report that veteran difficulty in Stalker 2 feels really, really challenging, very fun, and exactly what I wanted it to feel like. I think if you played master difficulty only in Stalker 1, you'll be pleasantly surprised about the veteran difficulty. You have to stay in cover. You have to be careful with grenades. You have to be very careful with anomalies. Mutants are especially dangerous. Humans they will kill you quickly and you will kill them quickly. But mutants, I think, are especially dangerous compared to the old Stalker games. I feel like they have beefed them up quite a bit, especially in the veteran difficulty. So I actually really think that's a very good thing because it's how it should be. The humans should be easy to kill because they're humans. You just shoot them in the head a couple times, they go down, but a mutant is maybe different. And the mutants really are the terror of the zone, and they should be. The open worlds is very fun and rewarding to explore. You can run around pretty much everywhere. The world is humongous, by the way. Freaking humongous after you get out of the tutorial area. It's huge. There's hub towns. There's side quests everywhere. There's lots of stashes to be found. You can just go and explore. You can be a jerk. You can be a good guy. There's factions to join up with, people to piss off, people to be friends with. You can pretty much do whatever you want. So I think in that vein is a lot like the original Stalkers, which is good. But this game is much more open world, and it is built to be very open and complex, which is a difference from the originals. This game was built in Unreal Engine 5, which is a big difference from the original games. And they did that because they wanted to have this open world experience, and Unreal Engine 5 supposedly does a good job of that. So I guess we'll see. So how does the game generally feel after talking about all those good things? I think in a nutshell, I think Stalker 2 feels very similar to the old games. Unfortunately, that also means that it seems similar because it also still has the jank. The Euro jank, as they say. It's still there, friends. It is. This game is not perfect. In fact, there are many silly bugs that I ran into. There was nothing game-changing or crash. I didn't get any crashes or anything, but I got a lot of silly physics bugs, small things that weren't working. Like I tried to rebind my lean key to be hold instead of toggle, and that just wouldn't work for some reason. It worked for maybe 10 seconds and then it would flip itself back to toggle again. So I really just couldn't use it how I wanted. So hopefully they fix that. There was a weird bug when I was selling some items and all of a sudden the merchant was going to give me 3 times the money than he actually was supposed to give me. And I didn't realize it was a bug for a second. So I removed the item to try to check what was going on, but then I fixed it. So I was mad because I wanted that extra money and then I couldn't reproduce the bug again. But oh well, I didn't cheat, I guess. There was another issue where I was doing a quest where my character was kind of feeling a little woozy And while I was under that woozy state, I really needed to use my knife to knock down a wood plank on a door. However, there was something weird going on and the game wouldn't let me attack with melee. I don't know. It was just not letting me, and I tried it again in a little bit and then it worked. So it was clearly just a bug. Something was going on there. Now, there's other weird things like with the dialogues with characters. Sometimes they sort of like scoot around in weird locations while you're talking to them or before you talk to them. The leader of the ward guys was just kind of like scooting back a few inches every time I ended the conversation with him, which was a little uncanny and weird. Just little small things like that kind of just remind you that you're in a video game. Like, hey, by the way, this is still a video game and it's not perfect. But really, those are the only real bad things I could think of to include into here. Now, there's one major bad thing that I'm going to call the ugly, even though I do think that it will probably be fixed relatively quickly. At least I hope it does. The performance of the game. I mentioned early on in the good section of this video that the game was absolutely gorgeous, which it is, and there's lots of beautiful effects and all kinds of settings that you can use to get the most beautiful Stalker 2 ever, but it comes at a cost. When I booted up the game, it wanted to run everything at max settings, which is usually fine. My computer's pretty good. It's about 2 years old at this point, and it was, brand new when I got it. So it's good. It should be able to run pretty much every game. And it has been able to even while I'm recording. So I was fairly sure that it would be completely fine for this game. It was totally fine on maximum settings all the way. Well, I wouldn't say it was totally fine. I guess I did notice there was some stuttering here and there. Just every once in a while it would have to like catch up and go like not often, but enough to be noticeable. And then I saw some textures like popping in sometimes that were kind of close to me and felt like they shouldn't be popping in the tutorial area even. But it was very manageable until I got to the first hub town. And once I got near the hub town, the frame rate went down a lot. Quite a bit, like to a very noticeable low amount. And at that point, I decided that I would have to turn my graphics down. And that was fine and everything. I just think that if you're expecting it to be a really flawless, beautiful game experience with no bugs and performance issues, well, number one, you have very unrealistic expectations about video games. But number two, you're going to be a little bit sad when you run into some of these bugs and performance issues, because I'm pretty sure that almost everyone is running into these. It is day one. Like every game has bugs on day one nowadays, and the performance issue thing it's rough, because everybody has different PCs, and this is a humongous open world game. Open world games in general are a lot harder to bug test performance wise and just generally bug test, because there's so many different combinations of things that can happen and different ways the player can go about doing things. There's just countless places for bugs to happen. So you have to remember that before you judge these lovely developers too hard, because they really are doing a great job. And I think overall, this game is a beautiful Stalker experience. They have upgraded Stalker, but they haven't deviated from what we love about the old games. So if you're a fan of the old games and none of the negative things I said scared you, you will love this game. If you are a more modern gamer and maybe you're hoping that this game is going to be sort of a very polished AAA, I don't know. It's not that, okay? It's still got the jank and the bugs, but gosh darn it if it isn't beautiful anyway. I recommend it. If you want to get this game, get 20% off and it will sting a little bit less. Oh, but you will need about 150 gigabytes of space on your drive. I thank you for watching. Hopefully this was somewhat helpful for you. I will also be uploading my full Let's Play of Stalker 2 on Lilia TV, so feel free to watch that if you so desire. And I am streaming this game live on Twitch, so check out my Twitch channel linked below if you want to go hang out with me live and say hi. Thank you guys so much. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Hamster. Do you have a quest or... Ah. It involves going to the poppy field? Doesn't this guy look so friendly? He just looks like he's got the friendliest face in the world. What's the poppy field? Isn't that drugs?